In a world filled with screens and distractions, we invite you to reconnect with the natural world around you. Welcome to Nature Bound, a podcast dedicated to unpacking the intrinsic bond between humans and nature. We'll uncover the benefits of spending time outdoors, including how a nature-centric lifestyle can improve your mental health, elevate your leadership skills, and unleash your creativity. And now here's your host, outdoor enthusiast, and renowned author of The 7 Principles of the Magic Rock, Emanuel Rose.
So let's talk about exploring scenic and underrated fishing spots. There's you and I both know our secret spots and not so secret spots anymore. Hidden gems on the West Coast. Are there how many of those do you get to fish a lot in your area, or even outside of the area? Do you go where there's hardly anybody there? You got to go off the path for a while to do that, but
Yeah, I mean the easiest way to find spots where nobody fishes is to take a backpack and go spend
yeah,
the night somewhere, right?
exactly. Yep.
And someplace like Yosemite Park, where 80% of the people spend 4 hours there.
Yeah,
So
forget it.
you
Yeah, yeah, not gonna happen. Yeah,
you
yeah,
could go walk into the Grand Canyon of the Tuolumne and have the place to yourself
yep,
because it
yep.
takes 2 days to get there.
Yeah, that's like
Um,
the Kern when I guided on the Kern. There's still places where you go, if you walk upstream far enough
yeah,
on any stream, probably you'll find a secluded spot.
yeah, so that's the willingness to do a little bit of chair scouting, right? Looking at the
Yep.
maps online and figuring out where the parking spots are and where most people are getting on the river, and then figuring out a route that maybe it's going to take an hour to walk to, but
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have some time to yourself.
Yeah.
Like you say, most people are. Um, I some guys say they're lazy. I think everybody's in a hurry to get into the activity, which
I
we
do
all
so.
are,
Yeah.
right? We're
Yeah.
excited.
Right. Yeah.
We want to go fishing. We don't want to go
Exactly.
hiking.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I came here to fish. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that hour's worth of walk a lot of times will produce much better experience in terms of getting out away from people and getting into more game.
Yeah. Totally agree. 100%. Yep. And the joy of solitude. I mean, when you get to those spots off the beaten path, it's quieter. Oftentimes, sometimes the fishing could be terrible. It's typical fishing. You never know what you're
Yeah.
going to get. They're just not on that day. But the quiet solitude, you can take a nap and nobody's going to come hiking by and bother you. Strip down and jump in and do a little swimming.
Yeah, and that's not the most underrated part of it, right? A little time but by yourself
That's
outside,
right.
listening to the wind in the trees, and
Yeah, that's where we all go. Yeah.
yeah.
What are some other ways to find peace and escape the crowds by venturing off the beaten path? I mean, do you backpack a lot?
Not so much anymore.
Yeah,
I did a
same.
lot in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah,
Did it
same.
Tahoe to Yosemite a couple times, and
Yeah, I did that too. Yeah, it's a great
yeah.
trip.
Oh man, amazing.
Yeah.
Um, it's like we're talking about. It doesn't take a lot to get away from everybody if
Mm-hmm.
you're willing to do a little bit of hiking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have my kind of my tick list of places where um, I call it, the least cost for the most wilderness. And
Yeah, yeah,
and if I can uh, do an hour or 2 hour hike and cut off and get down to the river,
yeah.
um, then if it's a 15-minute hike off the trail to get back
Mm-hmm.
down to the river where it
Right,
turns
right.
away, right?
Yeah,
So I have those spots, and I've done that just by boots on the ground, and you cannot
mm-hmm.
underestimate the value just getting out there and like we're saying, make mistakes and figure it out, and be in an area and figure out what's going on in that area.
Yeah, yeah. There's a place up. I'm not going to say where, but it was. We took mules down to get to the put in on the river.
Uh-huh.
And it was a quite an adventure just to get to the put in. And a lot of times, and then you had a beautiful 3 day wild and scenic river trip. But when we weren't guiding, we would go up there on the weekends and start not where the trips start, but we'd know some other areas where, if I walk down to this little stream drainage and then go down that drainage, follow it to
Yeah.
the river, there's gonna be
Yeah.
nobody there. And then
Right.
the rafters come whipping by and they look at you, go, "How the hell did you get here?"
Yeah.
And there's secret spots to find everywhere.
Yeah.
You have to, plan it and research it and, enjoy a little long hike or a short hike, steep hike, whatever it is, but it pays off in the end.
Yeah. I have a spot like that in the Trinity Alps. One of the busiest hiking areas in
Yeah.
that area, right?
Yeah.
But the second the trail turns away from the river, I just turned left,
Yeah.
and I found this little oasis where been there. I've been there dozens of times and never seen anybody else. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Same.
that's the secret. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. That's it. Be willing to go off the beaten path.
Yeah.
What about fishing in different climates? What are some strategies for adjusting your techniques in different environments? Do you go to you figure it out? Figuring it out is one way to do it. It's kind of tough sometimes. You got to change flies a billion times, but what do you do about that?
Well, let's see. So I still had fish, and I've been, in sideways snow, and and that's usually in February or January. Yeah, I mean that. You got to be have a little bit of comfort. You got to have enough clothes and
Yeah.
the right rain gear and all that stuff to be able to weather a day through that. Um,
Hmm.
and the right whiskey too, usually like a Lagavulin or something a little more bite to it.
Yeah.
Uh, but then you got to also adjust. So you get using heavier line, sink
Hmm.
tips, shooting heads, whatever,
Hmm.
in order to get down. Especially when it's colder, right? The fish are not as active, so uh, you, it's usually not as lights out fishing as say October caddis would
Right.
be.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. October caddis on the lower sack.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah.
And then how do you handle unpredictable weather conditions camping and fishing during a road trip? Something, it wasn't, we've all been there, oh, it's going to be clear for the weekend. Wait a minute. What's this snow? We wake up and there's snow on the ground next morning. No wonder I'm so cold. What's going on?
Well, I'm sure you've been in the Sierra too when it was, even in July. I've
Yeah.
been snowed on in the Sierra.
Yeah.
So it's a form of again redundant systems where you're planning ahead for all the known unknowns, right? You
Yep.
know that it can snow or rain at any time, and to have at least a piece of gear to match
Yeah.
every situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where like those blue tarps are awesome because
Yep.
you can deploy that and be safe from a squall,
Yep.
3 or 4 hour squall.
Yep.
Um, and there's so much great gear now in terms of really high quality, lightweight rain gear.
Yep.
You really have no excuse not to have something in your day pack or in your fishing pack that can cover you up for the eventuality.
Yeah, that's really true. I mean, you should have, I always take a little stove and a canister with me too all the time because you never know. And you're right. The gear these days is so small and so light. You can have a one burner propane stove and a pot so you can at least heat water and,
Yeah,
stay warm and stay hydrated and all those things. And we used to have, I worked at A16 for a handful of years and we always had the 10 essentials checklist that we handed out to people, and I
right.
still tell everybody that to this day, go look it up online, find out what those 10 essentials are, and always make sure it's in your pack because
Yeah.
you never know, the shit can hit the fan anytime. And if you have that and, like you say, a big tarp and another layer of clothing, you'll be fine.
Yeah, and fire making supplies,
Fire
right?
making supplies,
Just
yeah.
some kind of little Altoids can that's got a little tea candle and
Yeah.
a lighter, and
Yeah.
you can weather 24 hours of anything with
Yeah.
if you got a fire.
And keep a good supply of those Bic lighters in your garage or your storage unit at home because matches don't always work. They sometimes get old or they break or they got wet and you didn't realize. But
Yeah,
you have a couple of Bic lighters in your bag and you'll be fine.
and that's why I like those little tea candles,
Tea candles, yep.
because they kind of work like a Duraflame log, right? You can
Yeah.
you can get a lot of stuff going with those.
Yeah, and you get a little shelter going, and that you can stay warm with one of those too. So
Yeah,
it doesn't
for
take
sure.
much. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Nature Bound. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. If you found value in today's episode, please share with someone who needs to hear it. Be sure to purchase your copy of the 7 Principles of the Magic Rock at emanuelrose.com or on Amazon. We thank you again for joining us today, and remember to get nature bound.